Hi, I'm Seth, a software engineer at Jargon, and I'll be giving you a demo of the Jargon platform. Jargon is the platform for enterprise teams building conversational apps. By combining IDE and CMS functionality, Jargon makes you more productive and allows you to keep your team and your many interconnected app components all in sync. Jargon supports Rasa, Alexa, and Google Assistant. And today I'm going to focus on Rasa and show you a few things. First, I'm going to show you how you can save time by authoring a Rasa story in Jargon's IDE, which has built-in shortcuts, autocomplete, and cross-system validation. It also shows you a sample output of the story as you build the steps. I'll add some variety and personalization to some of the components I add in my story. And lastly, I'll show you how easy it is to publish the changes I've made to a live Rasa app and then track the version history. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Here in the studio, we have all the components that you need to build conversational apps in Rasa, Alexa, and Google. This current project is a live Rasa app, and for the purposes of today's demo, I'm going to first be focusing on editing an existing Rasa story. As you can see, we already have a few steps defined in this story, so let's go ahead and add a few more. First, let's go ahead and add an intent. As I'm typing, you can see that it's providing auto-completion suggestions for the step name, as well as the individual components that could be used in this particular scenario. In this case, I'm going to be adding a new intent that actually does not exist yet. I'll also be doing the same for the action step. In this case, the IDE has successfully identified that the intent and also the action I've specified were not actually found in the project, so we will go ahead and have to add them later. First, let's look at the sample dialog though. If you're familiar with Rasa, you know that stories are expressed in more symbolic terms. Sometimes it can be challenging to imagine how they translate into the full user experience. To help with that, we built this module called the sample dialog. It pulls together all the app elements to translate them into one cohesive user experience. As you can see, the dialog indicates that we're missing the intent and the action step. So let's take a look at the inspector. Oftentimes, when you're editing components, it can be quite tedious to see the underlying details, like with intents or responses. With the inspector, you can easily look into each component to get a nice quick overview. In this particular scenario, the intent and action that we have specified are not actually created yet, as indicated by the inspector and by the IDE in the editor. So let's go ahead and create those now. First, we're going to start with creating the new intent. After the intent is created, let's go ahead and create a new training example. In this case, let's call it contact sales. And next, we're going to navigate back to our story. As you can see, in the inspector, contact sales no longer has any errors now that we've actually created it. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for response as well. Now that we've created this response, let's go ahead and add some content to it. Now, while this text does work, if we wanted to better personalize this response, Jargon provides a few ways to do so. First will be by adding more variants, which is a great way to keep your content fresh and new to the user by just adding different variations to the text. The second would be by adding variant conditions. To demonstrate this, let's pull up a response that has some variant conditions already set. In this particular example, if no conditions are specified, Jargon will just randomly choose a variant. If there are conditions specified, you can target certain values, like session count, or maybe even certain channels, like Slack. Now, getting further into Jargon's CMS functionality, you can set up your Rasa app to integrate with Jargon at runtime. So as such, any changes you make to your response within Jargon can be instantly published without having to retrain your dialog models or redeploy your app. This allows you to easily iterate on response changes without touching your code or relying on an engineer. Now that we have updated our story and added an intent response, you can see that we have new changes to commit up here. Let's go ahead and commit those changes, adding a note to the rest of the team describing what we've done. Okay, great. Now that our changes are committed, let's go ahead and go to the Releases tab, where we can go and create a new release. When creating a release, Jargon is running all the additional validation checks to ensure that everything is valid for the platforms defined, as well as building out all the files you need to retrain your models. So if you're only making changes to responses, you don't need to worry about retraining the model. During the release process, if there are any errors, it will show you exactly where you need to go to resolve them. So With that being said, let's go ahead and create a brand new release. Now that the release is finished building, you can download the release package for which our Rasa app will contain all the files you need to retrain your app models. And now that we have no errors, we can go ahead and publish our content. So let's go ahead and add some environment tags to deploy it. Now that we have added those tags, we can publish our changes, and we are ready for our application to fetch the updated responses at runtime. So let's recap. I showed you how Jargon makes it easy to build a Rasa app and add and update rich responses that you can publish instantly. We updated an existing story and saw how that translated into a sample user experience or dialog. We then added an intent in response to the story, committed the updates so that the rest of the team can see them, and ultimately released the changes. Now, I skipped over a number of more advanced features and power tools, so it's up to you to create a free account and explore Jargon on your own. We're just a small team, and we'd love to hear your feedback and suggestions, so please don't hesitate to reach out. We can't wait to see what you build.